is probably best known for buying and restoring Sprague's Super Service, a deteriorating two-story Tudor Revival-style gas station on Route 66 in Normal. But there's more to Terri than that top-line bio. She has a doctorate in history. She wrote her dissertation about Route 66. She's a playwright, an actor, co-producer of a short film, and stand-up comic. She's also an author who will be hosting a reading and book signing of her memoir, No Crybabies Allowed, next Tuesday, November 14th at 6:30 p.m. at the McLean County Museum of History, the old courthouse. And tonight she has a story for us that she is calling Jump. Terri Ryburn.
And you forgot to say what I'm not scared of. And I thought long and hard about this. I'm not scared of bullies. So if any of you are thinking of bullying me, it doesn't work. So I do want to, call out Bruce and Carol both, because my best friend Kathy Davis and I are going to Costa Rica in January. And we have both signed up for zip lining. I might take an extra glove with me, Carol. So, yeah, I call my story Jump. And just as Van Halen says, you might as well jump. Go ahead and jump. Now, people who know me, and I think there are a few in the room, probably don't realize that I'm a very shy person. And I'll pause while you laugh. I've worked really hard to overcome this defect, but I am a very shy person. And it started when I was a kid. My dad moved us all across the country because he had what Mom called itchy feet. He literally could not stay in one place for very long. So as a result, I went to 7 grade schools and 2 high schools, including 3 third grades. So I never really got multiplication tables. And I've been very thankful for calculators and cell phones. Although when I learned to read, what a world that opened for me. And I'm happy to report that I read at or above grade level today. So we moved so often that I was always the new kid, and I never ever really fit in. And I was very shy. In fact, I would say I had crippling shyness. So I watched and I listened to everyone, and I didn't say much at all, which again should come as a big surprise to most people in this room. But I will tell you though, I was hell on wheels at recess. I could run and jump and squeal and carry on, but then when I hit the classroom, I was watching and listening again. It probably didn't help that I had a very unusual first name, and no, it's not Terri. It is Theresa. T-H-E-R-E-S-S-A. Yes, 2 S's, just to make it extra special complicated. No one could ever pronounce it, no one could ever spell it. And as an adult, I said to my dad, "Dad, why did you do that to me? I mean, you looked at this sweet, innocent little baby and you stuck that name on it?" And he said, "Well, I wanted you named for my sister." And I said, "Well, Dad, did you ever notice she went by Skippy?" Now, that should have been his first clue. And then my last name was not a picnic either, because Ryburn, R-Y-B-U-R-N, that makes sense, it's Ryburn, but everybody wanted to put an A on it and make it Rayburn. So if anybody I went to grade school with thinks of me, and there's really no reason to think that they do, they probably believe that they went to school with a skinny little redhead named Teresa Ryburn. So my family was very poor, but very funny. And we had to entertain ourselves because we didn't have a television. Once in a while, Mom would have a radio, and we would sit around on a Saturday night and listen to Minnie Pearl shout out "Howdy" from way down in the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. But mostly, we just told each other stories and tried to make each other laugh. Now that was very important to me because my two older brothers were bullies. And some of you have read my book and you wonder how I'm standing here today because of their behavior. But at any rate, I figured out if I could make them laugh, they wouldn't hit me. So, you've heard of the Bible phrase or Bible verse, soft answer turneth away wrath. Well, that's Book of Proverbs 15:1. And I would say it's a joke that turneth away wrath. And that's Book of Terri 24/7. So, anyway, how do you get over really crippling shyness and this paralyzing fear? Well, I read a book many years ago called How to Save Your Own Life by Erica Jong. Some of you may have read that. And she gives a list. And one of the things she says is, if the evil eye catches your gaze, look away. Well, that makes sense, right? And then she said, always do the thing you fear the most, because courage is like caviar. So I thought, well, I don't like caviar, but you get accustomed to it apparently. So I started thinking about that. But then I graduated high school. And I took a job and another job and another job. And every job I had to do more and more interacting with people. So I couldn't just watch and listen, I actually had to talk to people. And then the job started requiring me to talk in front of people. Well, talk about sweaty palms. I mean, that was stomach churning stuff. So anyway, I had to talk to people. I did that. And then I thought about Erica Jong. Yes, courage is an acquired taste. So in 1978, I took a big jump. I got divorced and I started college. I was 30 years old, absolutely terrified. Been out of school so long I didn't know if I could do it. But I worked at Illinois State and went to college part-time for 21 years before I got my bachelor's, master's, and doctorate. So, yeah. Says something about my family trait of stubbornness, I think, more than anything. But at any rate, during that time, I was working my way up through the university, getting a promotion that required me to talk to maybe a dozen people, and maybe 24, and then maybe 100, and then 200. And once I stood on Braden Auditorium stage and talked to almost 1,000 people. So I was starting to get that courage. I was starting to be more comfortable, but still sweaty palms, churning stomach. So when I was going to retire, I made a 5-year plan for myself. And I used to require this of my students because, and everyone should do this really, because that helps keep you on track. So you know you're doing what you need to be doing. Well, at my age, I might not need a 5-year plan. I don't even do multi-year magazine subscriptions anymore. Sorry, AARP. But my plan was very simple. I said, I want to explore creativity in every aspect of my life. And I set out to do that. I set out to explore. Well, the very first thing I did was to join Young at Heartland, of which Ann White, of course, was and is director, which is a senior theater acting troupe with Heartland Theater. And of course, Bruce Beck was an actor with me as well as a playwright. So we would go and entertain at, nursing homes and retirement centers, churches, libraries, that sort of thing. We would bring entertainment to folks. And so I kind of got used to that. That was pretty good. I could do that. Well, then part of this class, they said, you know what you need to do? You need to go audition for the 10-minute plays at Heartland just for the experience. And I thought, okay, well, I'm up for new experience. So I went and auditioned, and I went home, and I thought, well, that went pretty well. Yeah, that was okay. But then I got the call that said they wanted to cast me as an aging hippie chick. And I stood on that stage, and night after night, terrified, I stood on that stage. And then I had an opportunity to act with one other person in a 2-person play called Laughing Wild by Christopher Durang. And I had to memorize a 40-minute monologue. Go ahead and gasp. I'm still gasping. And then I had to memorize another 30 minutes of dialogue with the other person. So that was a challenge, but I did it, and I proved to myself I could memorize. So then I went to clown school. Well, you know, I'm on a roll here with the creativity. And I performed for children's birthday parties and also nursing homes, which cured me of being a clown, by the way. Those old folks are mean. Oh my God, they're so critical. I did one where I was leaving, and this one little old gal, she's probably my age now, but anyway, then she patted me on the arm and she said, "It's okay, honey, you did your best." Yeah. Okay, so time marches on, and I thought to myself, okay, creativity, what is the one thing that I have not yet done? Oh, I know, I'll do stand-up comedy. Well, that is absolutely terrifying, because when you're acting or when you're a clown, you put on a persona. You know, you're a character, you're acting, you're not yourself. But when you do stand-up comedy and you get up there on that stage, it's all you. And you had better be funny. Well, I knew I could make my brothers laugh all those years ago, but could I make an audience laugh? What if they hit me? So my husband and I went to California. We used to house sit near LA. And I found a comedy coach, and I worked with her for about 6 weeks. And the very first joke I ever wrote got published in a book called Squeaky Clean Comedy. Dirt-free jokes from the best comedians. Now you got it here in writing, folks. My very first joke, I'm one of the best comedians. You want to hear the joke? Yeah. Oh, I know you want to hear it. Let's see. My husband is 15 years older than I. He likes to say, age is just a number. Why is it only old people say that? I'm glad you laughed and didn't think that was an ageist joke. He thought it was quite funny. So at any rate, my comedy coach said, when you get back to Illinois, you've got to go do open mic nights. And that way you'll get some material and, you know, get some feedback. So I came back to Illinois, but I had a really bad car accident, which sidelined me for about a year, and also delayed my retirement by a year. So finally, January of 2005, the Funny Bone Comedy Club came to Bloomington. Some of you probably remember that. So open mic night also happened to be the college night. Now, I don't know if you've ever taught. I know Ralph here has. Dawn, I know a few people who've taught, but there's nothing more terrifying than standing in front of a bunch of judgy college students. So anyway, I went for a few weeks to kind of see how things were, and some of the time I thought, oh, I'm that funny, I could probably do that. So anyway, I put a set together. I was supposed to do 7 minutes, and I rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. So the night I'm supposed to go on stage, I'm standing in the back of the room. Actually, I'm pacing in the back of the room, and I was just sick. Sweaty palms, my stomach was churning, my knees were shaking, and honestly, I would have chickened out if I hadn't invited some of my coworkers. And of course, my husband Bill was going to be there. So I'm back there, I'm so upset. So why am I doing this? Why have I agreed to do this? And then I hear the MC say, and now let's welcome to the stage, Dr. T. Well, that's what my students called me, but they weren't quite that enthused. So I did that long, slow walk up to the stage as people clapped politely. And I stepped on the stage, and there was that blinding light. You can't really see anybody. But I could see my husband sitting in the front row, just beaming up at me, so proud, so happy, so unaware of how sick I felt. And so I jumped. I took the mic and I said my first joke. I jumped. I said, you know what's great about living in a small town? You don't need a global positioning system. You've got your own built right in. It's called Casey's. So everybody laughed, and I stepped back. I didn't know what to do, because I had rehearsed and rehearsed, but I didn't rehearse any time for laughing. And if they kept interrupting me, I was not going to get through this 7 minutes of material. I real quick said, and Casey's is the only restaurant in small towns. You got your donuts, your slushies, your pizza, pretty much your basic food groups. And they laughed again. And I never got through all my 7 minutes, but I was absolutely hooked. So I went back every week, and I had to have new material every week because this crowd was the same crowd every week. So a touring comic can get away with the same jokes night after night after night because they move on. But I ended up with about 2 hours of material. And that was phenomenal. That was great. And I had quite a college following. Real quick, I just want to tell you a story about walking across campus with a colleague who didn't know I was doing comedy. And this really nice looking young man jumped out in front of us and said, "Dr. T, you were great last night." And I just turned to her and said, "Oh, I get that all the time." I'm pretty sure she thought there was a sexual harassment suit in my future. So the next week I get up and I say, "Look, you guys, you gotta be careful on campus. You know, you can't be jumping out in front of me." I told him what he'd said. I said, "Do not do that. Do not jump out in front of me and say you were great last night." So the next week I'm walking across campus with a different colleague, and this really nice looking young man, because they all are at college age, jumps out in front of me and goes, "Dr. T, I'm not going to tell you how great you were last night." So at any rate, April of 2005, and I've got a little frame thing here, I earned my first $100 as an opener for a touring national comic. And I was quite proud enough to frame it and have it in my office. So I take every opportunity that I get. I jump. If I get a chance to do something like going to Costa Rica and doing the zip line, I'm all over that. So I just want to tell you a couple of jokes about my family. Family, Latin for screwed up. But I'm from a really big family, and I get a lot of my material from them because they are just that funny, whether they mean to be or not. And I have, with 3 older brothers, I have some really interesting hand-me-downs. In fact, I was in 3rd grade before I knew that flap on my underwear wasn't a pocket. It's where I kept my baseball cards. Well, you laugh, but that 53 color Bowman Mickey Mantle 1959 is worth about $1,500 in mint condition today. Well, mine's probably not in mint condition. I think I was very shy, as I've told you, and my family was just loud and messy and out of control. And so I think every child goes through a time where they think, I couldn't possibly belong to these people. Who are these people? But I must have picked a really bad day to ask my mother if I was adopted. She said, "Look around you. There are 7 other kids in this house. Why on earth would we adopt you?" Parents didn't used to be so concerned about a child's fragile self-esteem. And I do want to leave you with this. Whenever I come to the edge of a cliff, I don't waste time looking over my shoulder for help. I jump. And I count on the updraft to lift me and take me onto something better. And I encourage you to do the same thing. When you come to the edge of a cliff, just jump. in the immortal words of Van Halen, go ahead and jump. You might as well jump. Thank you.